Okay, we're live. Welcome. We're going to try something a little bit different tonight. Welcome to the Tim Kraft Radio Theater. Let's see, have we got too much ambience going on? All right. Yeah, we'll try something a little bit different. I thought it'd be fun to do a little radio drama for you tonight. I used to do a lot of radio theater with a group called the Midnight Mystery Players. And one of the plays that we did was this one called The Hitchhiker. And I did the sound bed for it. I didn't do any of the voices for that play, but I did do the sound bed, and I still have these files from these plays that I did years ago. So I thought I would just revive them and use that sound bed to reenact this radio drama. I'm not sure when it was. It was done first back in 1946. The cast is Ronald Adams, the narrator. That'll be played by me. Mrs. Adams, that'll be played by me. The Hitchhiker, I'm going to play that part. There's a gas station attendant. I'll play that part too. There's a storekeeper, played by me. There's a woman. That'll be played by me. There's also a hitchhiker, a female hitchhiker. That'll be played by my wife, Chantel, if she can get in here at the right time. And there's a couple of operators. Those are voiced by Tim Kraft, Mrs. Whitney, and also the Pabst Blue Ribbon announcer. In just a second. All right, I just wanted to get rid of some background noise. Here we go. All right, we're going to start the play in just a second here. I think I'll do the announcer parts too. I believe Orson Welles announced this one. Thank you for joining me. So here we go. The Hitchhiker. All right. Okay. Okay, here we go. We of Mercury reckon that the story doesn't have to appeal to the heart. It can also appeal to the spine. Sometimes you want your heart to be warm, sometimes you want your spine to tingle. Well, the tingling will be quite audible as you listen to tonight's classic among radio thrillers. Its author is one of the most gifted of all writers who have ever worked in this medium, Lucille Fletcher, who also wrote the single greatest radio script ever written, Sorry, Wrong Number. The title of this, her terrifying tale of gruel, for this evening is another spine tingler by name, The Hitchhiker. I'm in an auto camp on Route 66 just west of Gallup, New Mexico. If I tell it, maybe it will help me. It will help me from going crazy. But I must tell it quickly. I'm not crazy now. I feel perfectly well. Perfectly well, except I'm running a slight temperature. My name is Ronald Adams. I'm 36 years of age, unmarried, tall, dark, with a black mustache. I drive a 1940 Ford V8, license number V67989. I was born in Brooklyn. All this I know. I know I'm at this moment perfectly sane, that this is not me, that it's not me that's gone mad, but something else, something utterly beyond my control. But I must speak quickly. At any moment the link with life may break. This may be the last thing I ever tell on earth. 6 days ago, I left Brooklyn to drive to California.
Goodbye, son. Good luck, my boy.
Goodbye, Mother. Here, give me a kiss and I'll go.
I'll come out to the car.
It's raining. Stay here at the door. Hey, what's with this? Tears?
Oh, it's just the trip, Ronald. I wish you weren't driving.
Oh, Mother, there you go again. People do it every day.
I know, but you'll be careful, won't you? Promise me you'll be extra careful. Don't fall asleep or drive fast or pick up any strangers on the road.
Strangers? Don't you worry. There isn't anything going to happen. It's just 8 days of perfectly simple driving on smooth, decent, civilized roads. With a hot dog or a hamburger stand every 10 miles? I was in excellent spirits. The drive ahead, even the loneliness, seemed like a lark, but I reckoned without him. Crossing the Brooklyn Bridge that morning in the rain, I saw a man leaning against the cables. He seemed to be waiting for a lift. There were spots of fresh rain on his shoulders. He was carrying a cheap overnight bag in one hand. He was thin, nondescript, but with a cap pulled down over his eyes. He stepped off the walk, and if I hadn't swerved, if I hadn't swerved, I would have hit him. I almost did hit him. Now, I would have forgotten him completely, except that just 1 hour later, while crossing the Pulaski Skyway over the Jersey Flats, I saw him again. At least he looked like the same person. He was standing now with one thumb pointing west. I couldn't figure out how he'd gotten there, but I thought maybe one of those fast trucks had picked him up, beaten me to the Skyway, and then left him off. I didn't stop for him. Then, late that night, I saw him again. It was on a new Pennsylvania turnpike between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. It's 265 miles long with a very high speed limit. I was just slowing down for one of the tunnels when I saw him standing under an arc light by the side of the road. I could see him quite distinctly. The bag, the cap, even the spots of fresh rain all splattered on his shoulders. He hailed me this time. "Hello! Hello!" I stepped on the gas like a shot. It's lonely country through the Alleghenies. I had no intention of stopping. Besides the coincidences, or whatever it was, it gave me the willies. I stopped at the next gas station.
Yes, sir.
Fill her up, will you?
Check your oil.
No, thanks.
Nice night, ain't it?
Yes, it hasn't been raining here lately, has it?
Not a drop of rain all week.
Oh, no? I suppose that hasn't done your business any harm.
Nah, people drive through here all kinds of business, though. Ain't many pleasure cars out on the turnpike this season of the year.
Well, I guess not. What about hitchhikers?
Hitchhikers here?
Why? What's the matter? Don't you ever see any?
Guy'd be a fool to start to hitchhike in this road. Look at it.
You mean you never see anybody?
No, maybe get a lift before the turnpike starts. Just before the toll house. But then it's got a mighty long ride. Most cars wouldn't pick up a gut for that long a ride. This is pretty lonesome country here, mountains and woods. You ain't seen nobody like that, have you?
Oh, no, just a technical question.
Oh, I see. Well, that'll be $1.49 with the tax.
The thing gradually passed from my mind as a coincidence. I had a good night's sleep in Pittsburgh. I didn't think about the man until the next day, just outside of Zanesville, Ohio. I saw him again. It was a bright, sunshiny afternoon. The peaceful Ohio fields, brown with the autumn stubble, lay dreaming in the golden light. I was driving slowly, drinking it in, when the road suddenly ended in a detour. In front of the barrier he was standing. Let me explain about his appearance before I go on. I repeat, there was nothing sinister about him. He was as drab as the mud fence. Nor was his attitude menacing. He merely stood there and waited, almost drooping a little. The cheap overnight bag in his hand, he looked as though he'd been waiting for hours. He hailed me. He started to walk forward. "Hello!" I stopped the car, of course, for the detour. A few minutes I couldn't seem to find the new road. I realized that he must be thinking that I'd stopped for him. "Hello!" "No, not just now. I'm sorry." "Going to California?" No, not today. I'm going to New York. Sorry." After I got the car back on the road again, I felt like a fool. Yet the thought of picking him up of having him sit beside me was somehow unbearable. Yet at the same time I felt more than ever unspeakably alone. Hour after hour went by. The fields, the towns. They ticked off one by one. The lights changed. I knew now that I was going to see him again, and though I dreaded the sight, I caught myself searching the side of the road, waiting for him to appear.
Yeah, what is it? What do you want?
You sell sandwiches here, Pop, don't you?
Yeah, we do in the daytime, but we're closed up for the night.
I know, but I was wondering if you could possibly let me have a cup of coffee, black coffee.
Not at this time of the night, mister. My wife's the cook, and she's in bed.
Well, now listen, just a minute ago there was a man standing right here. A suspicious-looking man.
Who is it, Henry? It's nobody, Mother. Just a fella thinks he wants a cup of coffee. Now go back to bed.
I don't mean to disturb you, but you see, I was driving along when I just happened to look, and there he was.
What was he doing?
Nothing.
You've been hitting the bottle. That's what's the matter with you. You got nothing better to do than to wake decent out of their hard-earned sleep. Now get going. Get on.
It looked as though he was going to rob you.
I ain't got nothing in this den to lose. Now on your way before I call the sheriff, Pokey.
I'd see him again. Maybe at the next turn of the road. I knew I'd see him. I'd run him down, but I didn't see him again until late the next afternoon. I'd stepped out of the car at a sleepy little junction just across the border. And he appeared across the tracks. He was leaning against a telephone pole. It was perfectly airless, dry day. The red clay of Oklahoma was baking under the southwestern sun, yet there were spots of fresh rain on his shoulders. I couldn't stand that. Without thinking, blindly, I started across the tracks. He didn't even look up at me. He was staring at the ground. I stepped on the gas hard, veering the wheel sharply towards him. I could hear the train in the distance now, but I didn't care. And suddenly something went wrong with the car. It stalled right there on the tracks. The train was coming closer. I could hear it. Its bell, its cry, its whistle crying. Still, he stood there. Now I knew that he was beckoning me to my death. After that, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know who this man was or what he wanted of me. I only knew that from now on, I mustn't let myself be alone on the road for 1 minute. Okay, now I'm going to get my backup actor here. Well, thank you all for coming along for the ride. This is kind of fun. I like that last sound sequence. I worked on that one for a long time to get the train. So now here, oh, you're going to be able to see this. So here he is driving along. He got past the train, and now let's see what's next for Adams. Okay. Hello there, like a ride?
What do you think? How far are you going?
I'll take you to Amarillo.
Amarillo, Texas?
Yeah, I'll drive you there.
Gee.
Hop in.
Mind if I take off my shoes? My dogs are killing me.
No, go right ahead.
Oh, gee. What a break this is. Swell car, decent guy driving, all the way to Amarillo. All I've been getting so far is trucks.
You hitchhike much?
Sure. Only it's tough, sometimes in these great open spaces to get the brakes.
Yeah, I'd think it would be, but I'll bet though if you got a good pickup in a fast car, you could get to places faster than, well, say, another person in another car.
I don't get you.
Well, you take, for instance, suppose I'm driving across the country at a nice steady clip of about 45 miles an hour. Couldn't a girl like you, just standing beside the road waiting for lifts, beat me to the town after town, provided that she got it picked up every time in a car that was doing, say, 65 or 70 miles an hour?
I don't know. Maybe she could. Maybe she couldn't. What difference does it make?
Oh, no difference. Just a crazy idea I had sitting here in the car.
Oh, imagine spending your time in a swell car thinking of things like that.
What would you do instead?
What would I do? If I was a good-looking fella like yourself, I'd just enjoy myself every minute of the time. I'd sit back and relax, and if I saw a good-looking girl along the side of the... Hey!
Did you see him, too?
See who?
That man standing beside the barbed wire fence.
I don't see anybody.
Right there.
It was nothing. Just a barbed wire fence. What do you think you was doing trying to run into that barbed wire fence?
There was a man there, I tell you. A thin gray man with an overnight bag in his hand. I was trying to run him down.
Run him down? You mean kill him?
Well, I'm trying to get rid of him, or at least prove that he's real. But you saw, didn't you? You saw him back there. Didn't you see him? Are you sure?
I don't see a soul, and as far as that's concerned.
Well, watch for him. Watch for him the next time, and keep watching. Keep your eyes peeled on the road. He'll turn up again. Maybe any minute now. There, right there.
No! How's this door work? I'm getting out of here.
Did you see him that time? Did you see him?
No, I didn't see him. That time, and personally, mister, I don't expect to never see him. All I want to do is go on living, and I don't see how I will be doing that very long driving with you.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please don't go.
So if you'll excuse me...
Please, you can't go. Listen, now, how'd you like to go to California? I'll drive you all the way to California.
Seeing pink elephants all the way? No thanks.
Listen, please, just 1 minute.
You know what I think you need, big boy? Not a girlfriend, just a good dose of sleep. There, I got it now.
No, you can't go.
Leave your hands off of me. You hear? Leave your hands off of me.
Come back here, please. Come back. She ran off as if I was some kind of a monster. A few minutes later, I saw a passing truck pick her up, and I knew then that I was utterly alone. I was in the heart of the great Texas prairies. There wasn't a car on the road after the truck went by. Tried to figure out what to do, how to get a hold of myself. If I could find a place to rest, or even if I could sleep right here in the car. Just a few hours, get some sleep. Alongside of the road, I'm getting my winter overcoat out of the back seat just to use as a blanket. Just as a blanket, when, hello, hello, I saw him coming toward me. Hello, coming toward me, emerging from the herd of moving steer. Hello, I didn't wait for him to come any closer. Hello! Maybe I should have spoke to him. I fought it out right then and there. But he began to be everywhere. Whenever I stopped, even for a minute, for gas, for oil, for a drink, a pop, coffee, a sandwich, there he was. I saw him standing outside the auto camp in Amarillo that night when I dared to slow down. He was standing near the drinking fountain at the little camping spot just inside the border of New Mexico. He was waiting for me outside the Navajo reservation where I stopped to check my tires. I saw him in Albuquerque where I bought 10 gallons of gas. I was afraid. I'm in a lunar landscape now, the great arid mesa of New Mexico. I drove through it with the indifference of a fly crawling over the face of the moon. And now he didn't even wait for me to stop unless I drove at 85 miles an hour over those endless roads.
He waited for me every other mile. I could see his figure, shadowless, flitting before me, still in its same attitude over the still and lifeless ground, flitting over the dried-up rivers and broken stones cast up by the old glacial upheavals, flitting in the pure and cloudless air. I was beside myself, when I finally reached Gallup, New Mexico this morning. There's an auto camp there. It's cold and deserted this time of the year. I went inside and asked if there was a telephone. I had the feeling that if I could just speak to somebody familiar, somebody that I loved, I could pull myself together.
Number, please.
Long distance?
Thank you. This is long distance.
I'd like to put a call into my home in Brooklyn, New York. I'm Ronald Adams. The number is Beechwood 9970.
Thank you. What is the number?
My number? It's 312.
Albuquerque, New York for Gallup. New York, Gallup, New Mexico, calling Beechwood 9970.
I'd read somewhere that love could banish demons. It was in the middle of the morning. I knew that Mother would be home. I pictured her tall, white-haired in her crisp house dress, going about her tasks. It'd be enough, I thought, just to hear the even calmness of her voice.
Will you please deposit $3.85 for the first 3 minutes? Ready with Brooklyn. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Adams' residence.
Hello, Mother?
This is Mrs. Adams' residence. Who is it you wish to speak to, please?
Who is this?
This is Mrs. Whitney.
Mrs. Whitney? I don't know Mrs. Whitney. Is this Beechwood 9970?
Yes?
Where's my mother? Where's Mrs. Adams?
Mrs. Adams is not at home. She's still in the hospital.
The hospital?
Yes, who is this calling, please? Is this a member of the family?
What's she in the hospital for?
She's been prostrated for 5 days. A nervous breakdown. Who is this calling?
Nervous breakdown? My mother doesn't have...
All taken place since the death of her eldest son, Ronald.
The death of her eldest son, Ronald? Hey, what is this? What number is this?
This is Beechwood 9970. It's all been very sudden. He was killed 6 days ago in an automobile accident on the Brooklyn Bridge. Your 3 minutes are up, sir. Your 3 minutes are up. Sir, your 3 minutes are up. Your 3 minutes are up, sir.
And so I'm sitting here in the deserted auto camp in Gallup, New Mexico. And so I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get a hold of myself. Otherwise I'll go crazy. Outside it is night. The vast, soulless night of New Mexico. 1,000,000 stars are in the sky. Ahead of me stretch 1,000 miles of empty mesa and mountains, prairies, desert. Somewhere among them, he is watching for me. Somewhere I shall know who he is and who I am. The Hitchhiker. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Oh, I should do the Orson Welles part at the end. I'll try and do his voice. We'll be right back to tell you more about our next Mercury Theater of Suspense. But first, the makers of Pabst Blue Ribbon wish to remind you that though you may not be able to get Pabst Blue Ribbon every time you want it in these days of grain restrictions, it's well worth your while to keep asking, for every bottle you do get will continue to live up to its name. And speaking of grain restrictions, not a single grain of wheat is being used in the brewing of beer and ale. And the grains being used by breweries are not the grains wanted for famine relief. Now let me repeat, when you do get Pabst Blue Ribbon, you can be sure this truly great beer will always be the happy blending of never less than 33 fine brews. As always, splendidly blended Pabst Blue Ribbon. Now, here's Orson Welles. That was the announcer. Now, here's next month, ladies and gentlemen, we bring you your radio, another Mercury favorite. We hope a favorite of yours. You've asked for it many times. An exciting, suspenseful episode of The Whistler. All right, there you go.
That's the end of the play. Thank you for joining me. How long did it go? A little over half an hour. Thanks so much. We'll do it again sometime. Cheers.